Hi folks, thanks for joining me for this week's river tutorial. What you see in the vise is a little variation on a parachute fly. So without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise then is a Hanak H390 barbless hook. This one's at size 10. It's on a fine wire and it's in black nickel. Now it's called the clink hammer hook, as I'm sure many of you will know. It's world famous, the clink hammer fly, and there's lots of variations of it, so I'm going to show you one of mine. First thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to be using the Veevus today, this is the GSP, it's at 30 denier. As you can see, it's a white thread. I'm going to add just a little bit of super glue to the shank of the hook. It can be quite slippy on shanks, so I just like to get this thread, especially for this pattern, because what I don't want to do is have that post twisting on me. I want it to be on a firm base and stay where it should. So I'm going to bring my thread back to about there. So I'm about a centimetre into the tie-in, and I'm going to remove my rat's tail. Now I want to add a little tag to this fly, and I'm going to use the same material that I'm going to use on the tag to make my rib, and I'm going to do that by using Troutline's UV ribbing fibres, and this one's the pearl white, and I've already taken a little bit out of the packet. And what I want to do with this is just get my thumbnail and flatten out the end of that, and it will go almost flat like a tinsel. And I'm going to dress that up to where I cut my tag off, and then just catch that in all the way down. I'm going to come right round the bend. I'm going to stop there and come back up in open turns, just to get my thread out of the way. Then I can bring my ribbon fibre round. Now it's really up to you how big or small you want to make your tag. You don't even have to have a tag. If you don't want one, you don't need one. It'll work just as well without. So I'm going to do 2 turns on this occasion. I'm going to bring my thread back down, and I'm going to catch that in. Once you've got that under tension, and I just let go there for a second, just make sure it is locked into place. And I'm all fingers and thumbs here at the minute. Bear with me till I get back control, and then I can just hold that out the way. Now I've got my little tag there. I can't see it particularly well. The other day when I was out fishing, I stood on my glasses with my wading boots, and they're not too clever at the minute. They keep sliding down my face, so seeing this fly is quite a challenge. Next then, we're going to add in the body, and what I'm using is some dyed black pheasant tail. And I'm going to take 3 or 4 fibres from the cape, which I should have had prepared, sorry about that. And then I'm going to catch that in at the tips, like so. Now some people might say, oh, you should have done the post first. I'm going to come on to the post in a second, and the reason I don't do the post first is I like to get this part out the way before I start working up this end of the fly. I just find it easier. For my post then, I'm going to be using some of this antron. I've already taken a little bit off here. I do prefer to use arrow wing or some of the fish on ultra dry yarn, but I've run out of both of them materials, so what I've got is some antron that's going to just do a similar job, but in my humble opinion it's not quite as good as the other 2 products I mentioned there. So what I want to do is get my little bit of antron, bring it up under the hook like so, and then I'm going to crisscross that in a figure of 8 motion. initially, so 2 or 3 turns. That just gets a little bit of shape onto it. Then if you've got a gallows tool, now's the time to hook this up. Unfortunately, I don't have a gallows tool. I keep meaning to get one, you know, but I just have so little use for it, and because I can do it like this, a bit cack-handed, but I can get away with it, I just don't think I need it, to be honest. Mind you, I didn't think I needed a whip finish tool. I've got one of them now. Anyway, I'll probably, down the line, purchase a gallows tool. But at the minute, I'm making do with what I've got, which is my fingers. I don't even think they're that expensive, but just I can think of better things to spend my money on. Perhaps if I was a commercial tyer and I was tying up loads and loads of these, I would maybe have a different perspective on it, because it is fiddly when you're doing it by hand. But there we go. Again, like I say, I've managed. For the hackle, I'm going to use a black hackle, and this one's a lovely cock hackle. It's a grizzle hackle, cape, sorry, that's been dyed black. So I've got the feather here, and I've picked one out. Now what I'm going to do with this is, to prepare it, I'm going to just pull all the feathers backwards on the stem like that. Then we can see what we're working with. So I'm going to pick the size of hackle I want on this, and what I want to do is take it like so. So there's this is the bit I'm going to be using. This is the size of the hackle, this side. On this side I'm going to strip that out, and I'll do that now. So I'm just going to use my fingernails, just plucking away the remainder of that. Now, I don't need all this stem. I want to leave about 1 centimetre. And what I want to do next is catch this in with my post. Now I'm doing it on my side, and you may see I've got a little bit of the stalk sticking out at the bottom here, and it's not sitting currently where I want it, but it will be soon. And then I'm going to come around my post all the way up to the top, and all the way back down. Now I can't claim credit for this technique in the slightest. I saw this at the British Fly Tying Fair earlier this year. I think it was Gareth Lewis that I was watching, a Welsh tyer, very talented lad, who did a fly like this. But I later found a video on YouTube, and I'll put a little link to this up in the bar there, or there, I'm not quite sure where it is, but it's a Barry or Clark video, and it's excellent, and he makes it look so easy, but as you can see from my hashings, it's not as easy as it looks. So I've now got my post in place. What I want to do now is add a little bit of strength to that post, and I'm going to do that with a touch of super glue on my needle. And it doesn't take much, just a tiny touch, and that'll just firm up your post, and that's going to make life a lot easier when you start bringing that hackle down. But we've got a bit to go before that. Just trying to get the rib out the way. I'm going to come in with my hackle pliers, catching that pheasant tail. Now remember, it's fairly weak, the fibres on pheasant tail, so just take your time. There's no rush. You want to definitely not snap off your pheasant tail at this point, or you'll be going to bed and crying into your giant pillow as you have to strip the fly down and start again. So nice and gentle as you're bringing it round. Try and avoid the hook point. If you're not making a video, actually, a great tip I got from one of the viewers, and I do this when I'm not on camera, is just tilt your vise slightly at an angle and you can just see your hook point much easier. But the problem I have is if I do that on camera, the fly quickly goes out of focus, and I don't want to ruin your view, so to speak. So as you come up near to the base of the post, bring it right in and bring your thread round to capture that body in. Once you've caught it in on that side, it should just be a case of bringing your thread up through, bring it to the front of the hook, out the way, and then remove your waist. And there you've got your pheasant tail body in place. I mean, as a belts and braces sort of guy, what I would also usually do is add a little bit of super glue to the base just to keep that down. But this UV fibre is very robust, and it's going to offer plenty of protection to the pheasant tail. So I'm just going to bring that up. Usually I aim for 3 to 4 turns in the body on a fly this size, and I've got that. And what I'm going to do now is just bring the remainder of my fibre up to my thorax area to meet my thread. Secure it in with a couple of turns, doesn't need much. Bring your thread to the eye, take away that. And that's it's a great thing, this, a very pleasing rib. It makes a lovely rib. It's great for crunchers as well, actually, as I mentioned it, if you do a bit of still water fishing. So I seem to have lost my my hackle in amongst that. Yeah, I'll just cock that out. So far so good. Next then, I'm going to use some material for the thorax area, and what I'm using is this Nature Spirits. It's an emergence dubbing, and they call it 33A Black Blood Leech, and it's a lovely material. It's kind of black with a touch of red in it. I don't know how well you can see it on camera there, but it's really nice. But dubbing it onto the nano silk is a real pain. So what I'm going to do is add some tacky wax just to help me. Doesn't need a lot because I don't need a lot of dubbing, but just a little bit, just to make my life a little bit easier. I'll add some tacky wax. Bring up your dubbing a little at a time. Less is more on this occasion. And bring it up, and you can see with the wax, it definitely helps to get that onto your silk. Next then, we're going to do a couple of turns in front of the post. Then, as you can see, I'm going to come up under the post, and I'm going to do a couple of turns on the other side. Now, when I finish, and this is important, make sure your thread's right beside your post, hanging down on your side. By that I mean my side as I'm tying, but the thread's got to come down that way. Okay, now that we've done all this, the little bit of super glue I put on the post should be well dry. So next, just try and break the stem off your hackle, and it doesn't matter which way you go really. I'm going to come round clockwise. Now, I do like using my hackle pliers for most things, but for this fly I just think you get a lot more control with your fingers. It needs to be tight and it needs to be close together to get that nice hackling. Now the post might have looked a little bit tall, but because you've stripped out half the hackling, it does need to have that height to give it the buoyancy. At the end of the day, it's a fishing fly. So once you've wound the hackle down to the bottom of the post, make sure you work your thread underneath and catch in that hackle. Now, this is one of the very few times I'm still not confident with the whip finish tool, so I'm going to take my thread and do a hand whip finish. Make sure you just get that into place. I like to pinch it with my thumb and forefinger in my left hand and then run it up to the end. Now at this point, before you do anything else, just where you've finished off your thread, I like to come in with a spot of UV resin just to make sure that that's in there and it's not going to go anywhere. There's nothing worse than going to cut your thread and your hackle spinning out. Like I said earlier, you'll be going home, hitting the dram, wondering where it all went wrong. So just make sure that's secure before you release your excess hackle and your thread. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And next, all we've got to do is trim up our post. I like to leave a roughly just below a centimetre. I want this to sit right in the film, so it'll sit right in the film with the water, and it's a great wee dry fly, this. Very generic, it's not for any particular hatch, but if you see little black flies coming off and stick this on, you won't be disappointed. Thanks very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please think about clicking that little subscribe button. I would really appreciate your support.